Okay, good morning, everyone. We are on Daf Mem Amud Aleph. On the top, Hayudbokin Oisai B'Sheva Chakiros. There were 7 Chakiros, which they would ask the edim in cases of Dina Nefashos. Be'eza Shavua, which Shavua, not which week, which year of the Yovel cycle. That means there were 7 times 7. So which one of the 7-year cycles of the Yovel cycle did it happen in? Be'ezo Shana, which Shana of those 7 years? Be'ezo Chodesh, which month? Be'kama b'chodesh, what day of the month? Be'ezo Yom, what day of the week? Be'ezo Shah, what hour? Be'ezo Malkum, in what place? Rabbi Yossi Omer, Be'ezo Yom, Be'ezo Shah, Be'ezo Malkum. You only ask 3 questions. What day, what hour, what place? Weiter, Makirin Atem Oso. We need to ask the edim if they recognize the person who was killed. We'll see in the Gemara why that matters, who was killed. Hitartembo, did you warn him? However, avodah-zarah, if he worshipped avodah-zarah as mi'avad, which avodah-zarah did he worship? You need to know which one. Uva me'avad, how did he worship it? Kol hamarbe bebedikos harezem meshubach. The more bedikos you do, the better it is. Now again, there are 7 chakiros, and the other things are called bedikos. And we'll see the difference between them in a second. But there are 7 chakiros or 3 chakiros, and the rest of the questions that we ask them are bedikos, on a lower level. Maisu Badak Ben Zakkai be'oksei te'enim. Ben Zakkai even wanted to know about the oksei te'enim, about the thickness of the branches under which an aide was claiming that he saw somebody else kill somebody. Ma bein chakiros lebedikos. What's the practical difference between chakiros and bedikos? Chakiros echad omer eni yodei dudan betela. You take each aide individually, and you need to go ahead and have 7 chakiros to each, and then bedikos to each. So if he says, I don't know, if any of the edim say, I don't know, to any of the 7 or 3 questions, we're going to assume 7 for today, but again, Rabbi Yossi said 3. If anybody says, I don't know, to any of the chakiros, we throw him out. You don't know be'eza chodesh, be'kama b'chodesh, be'eza malkum. If you don't know one of them, your edus is gone. Bedikos, but by the other questions, which the example that the Gemara gave was, over the avodah-zarah, mi'avad, uva me'avad, etc., Echad omer eni yodev, afilu shnayim omer einanu yodin, edusam kayemes. Their edus can still be kayim, it could still be admitted if they know the answer to the 7 chakiros. Echad chakiros ve'echad bedikos b'zman shemachishin tzadzeh, edusam betela. However, by the chakiros and by the bedikos, it's one thing to say I don't know. But if the edim answer the questions, again, the chakiros they must, and the bedikos they can, but if in fact they answer the questions, and 2 edim, the answer to their questions, bein bechakiros, bein bebedikos, do not equal each other, then we throw out the edus. Now, even more in depth. Echad omer b'shnayim b'chodesh, ve'echad omer b'shlosha b'chodesh, edusan kayemes. Now, when we say you have to know the exact day, and they contradict each other, well, it depends. If they're off by 1 day, and seemingly in the beginning of the month, it sounds like, then that's not contradictory. Why? Because as Rashi says, one might know that the last month was an Iber Chodesh, and one might not know. One might know that they added the extra day, or one might know that they didn't have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh. I don't know if it was 29 days or 30 days. So it might be off by 1 day. Fine, that's not going to be a big deal. But if they're off by 2 days, then Lamaisa it's going to be a problem. Shezeh yodea bi b'rosh hachodesh, v'zeh ino yodea bi b'rosh hachodesh. Zeh omer b'shlosha ve'echad omer b'chamisha, edusam betela. But if one says 3 and one says 5, 3rd day of the month and 5th day of the month, that already you have to be too far off, and Lamais it's a problem. Again, you ask them what Shah of the day. So if one said it was the 2nd Shah of the day, which would be for our purposes 6 to 6, it would be 8 o'clock, in the 8 o'clock hour. And one says it was in the 3rd hour from 8 to 9, as opposed to 7 to 8, a dusan kayemes. It's fine because people are not so makbid on the exact hour. Again, they didn't have iPhones and iCells and iWatches and all these other things. But if one says 3 and one says 5, then it's going to be batel. And we'll see why exactly. Rabbi Yehuda Omer kayemes. It's still going to be kayim because, again, people are not so makbid at the exact time. A dusan betela. So again, 3 and 5, the first opinion is that you should be more careful. You should know whether it's 3 or 5, whether it's 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Yehuda says, no, even 3 and 5, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you don't necessarily know. But even Rabbi Yehuda agrees that if it's a difference between the 5th hour and the 7th hour, it's bata. Why? Because at 11 o'clock in the morning, the sun is still in the mizrach, where it's rising from. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's already on a 6 to 6 day going down, b'marav. So even Rabbi Yehuda will agree that between 5 and 7, that's going to be a problem. But again, it's exactly which case, it depends on who you hold like. But they have to be close enough when it comes to, for sure, 1 hour is fine, but more than that might be a problem. And after you bring the first guy in, so you bring in the second guy, and you ask him all the questions. Now, what happens if the edim don't contradict each other? So now you're ready to go. So poschem b'schus, and the Gemara before said, what does that mean, poschem b'schus? We say to the guy, if you didn't kill anybody, don't worry about it, nothing will happen. So if one of the edim want to get up and say, well, I want to say something for his chus, and Rashi says, kal v'chomer, if I want to say something for his chova, we don't listen to him. He's no ger b'davar. He can't go ahead and start supporting things. He can't start supporting the guy and for sure speaking out against the guy, because nobody's allowed to speak out against the guy. Even in echad min ha-talmidim, he can be lomad alav chova, he can be lomad alav zechus, he can't be lomad alav chova. Amar echad min ha-talmidim, yesh lomad alav zechus, then mal no so mashiv no so beinan. Then you let him talk as much as he wants. V'lo hayayu misham kol hayom kulo, im yesh mamish b'dvar shomin lo. If somebody wants to be lomid alav zechus, again, the point is to try to get the guy off the hook. If somebody wants to be lomid alav zechus to the baldin, let him talk as much as he wants, as long as he's not an aid. Vafiluhu, even the baldin himself, Omer yesh lomid al atzmi zechus shomin lo v'vachi yesh mamish b'dvar. As long as he has something real to say, and we see that he's not just blabbering away. If he has something real to say and he has good points to make, he can continue to talk to defend himself. And then we said what? Next step. If you find a zechus for a guy, now he's patur. V'im lav, and if you think that he's guilty, what do you need to do? Ma'virin o solamacha. You have to wait till tomorrow. Interesting to note here. Umizdavgin zugos. It wasn't a 9 to 5 job. Even when they left the court of 23 or the Sanhedrin, they would go out and they would go out in pairs, and they would discuss the case outside of court as well. They didn't eat much. And they didn't drink much. And while they were sleeping, that's all they thought about. Now this could go back to what we were saying before, that they can never have more than one case at a time, because they were so involved in the case that Lamaisa, they couldn't think about other cases. Again, we said if it's a similar case with similar dinim, it's one thing. But at the end of the year, they were so involved that outside court, not all the judges need to be around every single time they talk about something. So a few of the judges would get together and they would just review the case and review. They wouldn't decide anything, they would just review the details. And when a person was sitting in bed, couldn't fall asleep, when you're on the Sanhedrin, you're on the court of 23, you weren't counting sheep, you were thinking about the case. And then they would come the next day. As we're about to see, you can't change positions. But if a guy was mizaka, he gets up the next day, he says, I thought about it last night, and I still think the guy is innocent. And if he thought the guy was guilty, he gets up the next day and says, I still think that the guy is guilty. We said that if a guy originally was arguing that a person should be lechova, he's allowed to go ahead and argue for schus. But a judge who thought originally the guy was innocent, he can't switch his mind and go. Now again, as Rashi is going to tell us again later, Lamaisa, that doesn't mean that he can't decide at the end of the day that the guy is chayav. It's talking about arguing before the other judges. Once you start arguing l'schos before the other judges, you can't change and argue l'chova before the other judges. That doesn't mean that when push comes to shove and we need to vote on whether the guy is guilty or innocent, you can't vote guilty. It's just that once you argue l'schos, you can't change your mind, because you'll encourage other people to change their mind as well, or to vote chova as well.
So their psak was official before they broke away?
No.
If they decide what they're going to...
No, the bottom line is that they have the judges, right? So they go into the jury room, which again we said is not true because they're there in front of everybody. So they're going to deliberate amongst themselves. Let's say they say the guy is zechus, no problem. But throughout the deliberations, which is not one day, one of the judges will say, well, based on everything I've heard, I'm starting to think that it seems like the guy is guilty.
So they don't record that?
They don't record that. Well, they might record that. They're not going to record it, but I mean, the Shnei Sofer Adeyanin might record that. No, they're going to record that, but that's not going to count as a vote. So when he comes the next day, he can say, based on what I heard yesterday, every morning they go ahead and they chazer, based on what I heard yesterday, it sounds now like he's for schus. Once a guy says it sounds like he's for schus, he can never change publicly the fact that now he thinks the guy is a chova. When push comes to shove and now they need to vote, he can vote l'chova. But once he says publicly, he doesn't have to say anything, but once he says in front of the other judges, the guy is for schus based on what I've heard, he can no longer publicly ever say, you know what, I'm starting to think that the guy's really l'chova. Can he vote l'chova? He can vote l'chova. But once you say it publicly, you can no longer take it back because you're going to influence other judges to vote l'chova as well, ultimately. Tau b'davar, if you're not sure what you said yesterday, going along to your question, Shnei Sofer Adeyanim askiu no so. If you don't remember if you said chova or schus yesterday, if you made a public announcement and you want to remember before you make another public announcement to make sure that you didn't publicize yesterday that he's for zechus, and now you can't change a lechova, so you can ask them and they'll tell you. Again, imatzulo zechus patru. So they found him for zechus, he's pater. V'im lav omdin leminyan. Again, this is after they slept on it. They still think that he's not pater. Now they're going to go for a vote. We said if the vote comes out, just because they didn't find him for zechus means that they didn't all agree that it was zechus. They didn't all, if they would have all come, then they would have said, okay, he's innocent. But now they're going back and forth. They still can't decide. But we're ready for a vote. So now 12 vote innocent and 11 vote guilty. What happens? Innocent. We said you have to win by 1 only for innocence. For guilty, you need to win by 2. You can't really win by 2 over here because, again, it's an odd number. So you can win by 2. 23, 12, 11. It could be 13, 10. You can win by 3. So Shnai Masar Mechayv and V'achadasar Bezakin. V'afilu. So if you have 12 Mechayv, 11 Bezakin, you can't make the guy guilty. You can't throw out the case, but he can't be guilty. Furthermore, V'afilu Achadasar Bezakin V'achadasar Mechayv. And not only 12 Chayav, 11 Pater, you can't make him Chayav, and you have to keep going. But also, if you have, let's say, 11 saying Pater, 11 saying Chayav, and Echad Omer Eini Yodeh, one says I don't know, or even an extreme V'afilu Esrim Shnai Bezakin, 22 say guilty. Or 22 say chayiv, or mechayiv. 22 say guilty, or 22 say innocent. Ve'echad omer eni yodeh yosifra dayanim. You can never have one guy say, I don't know. You can't abstain. This is not the United Nations over here. You can't abstain from the vote. So again, in order to be innocent, you just need to win by 1. 12 versus 11, you're good. To be chayiv, you need to lose by 2 or more, which is usually 3. 13, 10. 12, 11, what do? You bring in 2 more judges. Because you don't have a tiebreaker. So now you have, that's where you get, now you have 25. You go to 14-11, that's it, you're done. You're chayiv. You go to 13-12 the other way, now you're pater. But again, as long as you keep getting the split of 1 and 1, that's when you keep adding judges until 71. But again, let's say you have even 22 that say pater and 0 say chayiv and 1 says, I don't know. We've got to add another judge. Now again, this guy's never going to lose. It's just a matter, well, the only way he could still lose. He could lose if every single new judge that comes says chayiv, chayiv, chayiv. In that case, we would only add 1 judge. When you have 22 guilty or innocent, 0 that say the other one, and 1 says I don't know, then you would add 1 judge to keep it odd numbers. You add 1 judge as long as he says as long as he doesn't say I don't know, the case is over, whatever the 22 were. However, over here again, if you have 12 versus 11, then you need to add 2 more. But as long as you have I don't know, you need to add dayanin. Again, we said you could add up to 71. What happens though if you have 13 versus you have 12 versus 11, then you add 2. 13 versus 12 for Zakai. Again, as soon as you for Chayav. Once you have 1 more for Zakai, you're good. Then you have 14 versus 13 for Chayav, and you keep adding, and they keep splitting. Now you get to 36 versus 35 Chayav versus Zakai. What do? You can't make the guy Chayav. So what do? Shloshim v'shisha mezakin v'shloshim v'chamisha mechayvin. Obviously, he's zakai. Shloshim v'shisha mechayvin v'shloshim v'chamisha mezakin. They go all out. Don in elu keneged elu ashir echad min hamechayvin divrei hamizakin. And Rashi says the other way as well. Then they have to duke it out. 36 versus 35 chayiv. We can't make the guy chayiv. So we try to convince one of the chayiv people to switch allegiances and to make him pater. That's our goal and our hope. Therefore, as long as you have 36, 35 the other way, we'll be able to make him pater. If in fact we can't convince one of the mechayvin to say zakai, if we're able to convince one of the zakais to say chayav, then you end up winning by 2. Then you can have 36 versus 35. Then you'll have 37 versus 34, and lamaisa you will be chayav and you will die. Zak the Gemara, minani mili. Where do we know that you need to have 7 chakiros in the Gemara? Amar Yehuda, the Amar Kra, there's 3 different psukim over here, and 3 different cases. There's a case of Ir Hanidachas, where you destroy the entire city. There's a case of a Yachid who worships avodah-zarah, and there's a case of edim-witnesses, case where witnesses witnesses testify falsely about something else. Just to give a little bit of an overview so that we'll understand what's going on in the Gemara. So Ir Hanidachas, Yachid who worships avodah-zarah, and edim-witnesses. The punishment for Ir Hanidachas is what? Is what? Wipe out the town. How? You cut off all the heads. Hereg. What's the din for Edom Zomamin? What's the punishment for Edom Zomamin? Hereg as well. Whatever they were going to do. But again, as Rashi is going to explain, the regular case is usually of Edom Zomamin is I'm testifying that you deserve to be killed. You deserve that you X, Y, Z. Lamaisa, whatever I wanted to do to you. So if I say I saw you kill somebody, then your punishment would have been, had you been guilty, would have been killing with Hereg. Therefore, that's going to be Saif as well. What's the punishment for Yachid who worships avodah-zarah? Skila. And again, at first glance, the order, hierarchy is Skila, Sreifa, Hereg, Chaneg. Now the question becomes, those are the three examples. So you have two examples of Hereg and the middle example of Skila. And we'll explain in a few minutes why that's important. But let's just say for now, how do you know that you ask 7 chakiros by any dinei nefashos? Now again, this doesn't cover all of the 4 mitzvos basin, but it covers 2 of them. But we're going to assume now for all the cases. How do you know that you need 7 chakiros, 7 main questions, or again, according to Rabbi Zev 3, but the 7 that we had on the top, Shavua, Shana, Chodesh, Kama b'chodesh, Yom, Shah, Makom. Fine. Amar Yehuda Damar Kra. Because he'll say, by Ir Nidachas, there are 3 words. We learn 1, 2, 3. By Yachid avodah-zarah, there's 2 words, 4, 5. By Edom Zomim, there's 2 words, 6, 7. That's what he says. Let's see. Damar Kra, V'darashta is 1. V'chakarta is 2. V'sha'alta heitev is 3. Those are all different ways of being doresh, of questioning the Edom. So that's 3. That's by Ir Nidachas. V'omer, by Yachid worships avodah-zarah, what does it say? V'hugad lecha v'shamata. You should hear v'darashta heitev. You should darashta heitev. That's, we'll see in a second, 4 and 5. As Rashi explains, darashta is 1, chakarta is 1, sha'alta heitev is 1. That's 3. Shamata is not 1, hearing him. Because again, we're talking about questioning him. Darashta is 1, and darashta heitev, the word heitev is another one. So that's up to 5. And then by the Edom Zomimin, v'omer v'darshu hashoftim heitev. V'darshu is 6, and v'darshu heitev is 7. Those are the 7 chakiros that we do. Zok the Gemara ve'ema chada chada kidei ksiva. Dimkein lichdevunu rachmana b'chada. I don't understand. If it would have told me 7 times, 7 different words by one of them, then I would say by all dinei nefashos it's 7. But why don't we say that lamaisa it says 3 by Ir Nidachas, 2 by Yachid who worships avodah-zarah, 2 by Edom Zomim, and therefore when you question an aid by the case of Ir Nidachas, you ask him 3 things. And when you question an aid by Yachid avodah-zarah, you ask him 2 things. And when you question an aid by Edom Zomim, you ask him 2 things. Why are we combining all of them together? Because they're all written bahadei adadei. That means all of them mention the word. It's not a gezerat shava, which is important to mention here. It's that they're all talking about drisha, and therefore if they're all talking about doing drisha, so we can combine all 7 of them and say it's by all cases of dinei nefashos. Says the Gemara, that's very nice. But since at this point in the Gemara it's not a gezerat shava, if they're not exactly the same, you can't go ahead and learn from one to the other. It means if it's a gezerat shava, you have an extra word, so then they don't have to be exactly the same. If you have 3 words that are the same in all 3 places, then you can go ahead and you can learn from one to the other, even if they're not exactly the same. But if you're just saying, well, they're the same because they're all talking about drisha, it doesn't say the same exact word by any of them. It doesn't say vidarashta, vidarashta. It says vidarashta, vidarashta, and then vidarshu. So it doesn't have the same by all 3 of them. So if you're just learning based on the fact that we're doing drisha by all 3 of them, so lemaisa, why is that enough? Says the Gemara, v'halo dami lahadadei. Says the Gemara, ir hanidachas lahanach tarte lo damya shekein mamon and palat. You can't compare ir hanidachas to the other 2 because by ir hanidachas all of the money goes. You don't just wipe out the city; you get rid of everything in the city. By the other 2, by the case of Yachid avodah-zarah and Edom Zomim, you might kill them, but you don't get rid of all of their money. Therefore, since Ir Nidachas is different, you can't learn the 3 from Ir Nidachas and combine them with the 4 from the other 2. Furthermore, avodah-zarah is not the same, as I mentioned, Shekain B'sayif. Because the other 2, Edom Zomim and Ir Nidachas, you kill the person with hereg, and by avodah-zarah, you kill him with skila. Edom Zomim is different because the other ones need hasra. Shekain tzrichan asra. By Ir Nidachas, exactly how you warn the city is an interesting thing. How do you warn the entire city? But by Ir Nidachas, you need to warn the city. By Yachid who worships avodah-zarah, you need to warn them in order to kill them. By Edom Zomim, there is no warning. We don't warn every single aid that comes and says, by the way, if you become a zomim, we're going to kill you. No, it's a known. Edom Zomim, that's the way it goes. So since if you're just going to work on the fact that all of them have drisha, that's not going to work because they're all different in certain aspects, and therefore you can't learn the fact that they're all drisha, that you're going to combine all of them and make them 7. Zok the Gemara, behetev hetev yalfinan mehadade, ugzera shava mufna. It's a gzera shava that's free. Deilo mufna ikala mifrach. So Gemara says no. You know what? You're right. It's not just because of drisha. We have an actual gzera shava. What's a gzera shava? V'darashta v'chakarta v'sha'alta hetev. Hetev. V'darashta hetev. V'darashta hetev. So what's the gzera shava? The word hetev. You have the word hetev in all 3 places. The word hetev in all 3 places, you go ahead and you can learn. Says the Gemara, la'ai afnuye mufne. Well, the Gemara says, well, one second. In order to have a Gzeirat Shava, it needs to be what's called a Gzeirat Shava mufne. The word needs to be extra. The problem is, right now we have a problem, because what did I tell you? I told you that there are 7 different chakiros. How do you learn the chakiros? V'darashta v'chakarta v'sha'alta heitev. V'darashta heitev. V'darashta heitev. Well, understand. If you're learning the word heitev 3 times to be 3 of the 7 questions, then the word heitev is not extra. It can't function as both. It can't teach me 1, 2, 3 of the 7 questions and connect all 3 parshios. Says the Gemara, yes, it can. Why? Afnuye mufne. Why? Because it could have written something else. Midahava leila mechtav vidarshu v'chakru v'shanikra b'diburei behetev shmamina le'afnuye. Says the Gemara. It could have written something else. Now again, we're skipping Yerni Dachas for a second, because by Yerni Dachas, as the Gemara is about to tell us, it says vidarashta v'chakarta v'sha'alta hetev. But let's talk about the other 2 for a second. What does it say? Vidarashta hetev. Vidarshu ashoftim hetev. So the Gemara says, it is actually, you can use heitev for 2 things. Why? Because what could the pasuk have said? Pasuk could have said, like it said by the Yerani Dachas, Vidarashta v'chakarta. It didn't use the word v'chakarta. So the fact that it doesn't use the word v'chakarta is already a chiddush. Now that he uses the word heitev, you can learn 2 things from the word heitev. The fact that it should have used v'chakarta, and the fact that heitev is said in all 3. So that's what the Gemara says. So therefore, v'darasha heitev, yes, originally we said if it had to write v'darasha heitev and you had no choice, then you need to use the word heitev 3 times for 3 of the 7, and you have nothing else to do with the word heitev. You can't use it twice. But since it could have said v'darasha v'chakarta, so the first thing we can learn is the fact that it doesn't say v'chakarta at all. Heitev is coming in as v'chakarta. Now it could have said v'darasha v'chakarta, v'darasha v'chakarta. The fact that it doesn't do that, so it says v'darasha heitev. Now you can learn 2 things from heitev. So now basically you have 7 things, but you have 3 extra heitevs. That means you're learning. If I say, how do you know the 7? V'darashta v'chakarta heitev. V'darashta heitev. V'darashta heitev. That's 7. The fact that it could have said something else in the other 2, we have heitev as quote-unquote extra to be able to connect them. The problem is that you can't do that for the first one, because the first one already says v'darashta v'chakarta. That's the Gemara's question. Says the Gemara, v'akati mudin mitzad echadu bishma hanach tarte mufnehu mishum dahavalei lemichtav. V'darashta v'chakarta, and it didn't write v'chakarta. El irani dachas my havalei lemichtav haksiva kulu. It wrote v'darashta v'chakarta. What else did you want the Torah to write? You can't learn that heitev. So very nice, you can make the Gzeirat Shava between Yachid, avodah-zarah, and edim-witnesses. That's only going to give you 4. How are you going to get irani dachas into the picture? Hasamnami afnuye mufne. No, it could have written something else by irani dachas as well. What could it have written besides v'darashta v'chakarta v'sha'alta heitev? It says hasamnami afnuye mufne midahavlei lemichtav drosh tidrosh. It could have said drosh tidrosh v'chakarta, or it could have said darashta ochakor tachkor. It could have used one of those words twice. It could have said darosh darashta v'chakarta 1, 2, 3. It could have said v'darashta v'chakor chakarta 1, 2, 3. What does it say? V'darashta v'chakarta v'sha'alta heitev v'shanikra b'dibura beheitev shmamina lafnuye. It specifically uses the word heitev there, so you can do both. You can use heitev to teach one of the 7, and lemaisa you can connect them. Fine. If you haven't been paying attention until now, it's a good time to pick up. Zog the Gemara. V'darashta v'chakarta heitev. So says the Gemara again. At this point we have 7. We have 3 by Yerni Dachas, 2 by Yachid avodah-zarah, 2 by edim zomamin, and lamaisa again, it didn't have to say the word heitev at all. The fact that it says the word heitev, we can learn 2 things. A, that it counts as an additional 1, 2, 3 of the 7, and lamaisa you can connect all 3. So now we've connected all 3, and we have 7 chakiros by all 3. Once you have by all 3, you can learn to all cases of dinei nefashos, or maybe not. Why not? Zok the Gemara, because now what do we have again? Going back to what I started with. Now we know if you're going to connect these 3 cases, I know that you have 7 chakiros by dinei nefashos, which are killed with skila and hereg, right? Let me just say something outside for a second, just to make it clear. And this is a trick question, but this is a question of the Gemara. When I go ahead and I tell you that you're going to go ahead and we're going to ask you chakiros in a case of skila, which is, as of now, the most chamor one, what does that mean in the case of the other ones that are not chamor? If I'm asking you the 7 chakiros in the chamor case, does that mean by definition I ask the most? I'm going to ask 7 in the least chamor cases, and vice versa. Let's say I tell you that I asked 7 in the least chamor cases. Does that mean by definition I'm going to ask 7 in the more chamor cases?
I think so. From the least to the most, you want to.
Okay, so that's what I would have thought. What the Gemara is basically going to suggest, which makes a lot of sense, and again, as I always say in every shir, the beauty of the Gemara is that it's so sharp. When I have somebody who is chayav skila, he must have done something pretty bad. That's the harshest punishment that we have. I want to get everybody off the hook as much as possible. But if I asked you, if I could choose only one that I'm going to try to get off the hook, who am I going to try to get off the hook first? I can only choose one. No, the opposite. That's the trick question. If I'm going to be able to get one guy off the hook, am I going to get the guy off the hook who did the more serious thing, or am I going to get the guy off the hook who did the less serious thing? I'm going to get the guy off the hook who did the less serious thing. If a guy is chayiv skila, yes, I want to get him off the hook. But if you're chayiv skila for bowing down to avodah-zarah, and you're chayiv hereg for going ahead and killing somebody, again, in our religion, quote unquote, let's say that avodah-zarah is worse. Clearly it is, because we say skila for that and hereg for that. Skila sreifa hereg chenek. So if I'm going to be able to get one of you off the hook, who am I going to choose? The guy who did the less serious thing. Now again, in a perfect world, what are you shaking your head? In a perfect world, we go ahead and we try to get everybody off the hook. What is it? It makes sense. If I have two people, one of them really sinned and one of them sinned but not as badly. If I can get one of them off the hook, who am I going to try to get off the hook? The guy that didn't really sin so badly.
They're both dying at the end.
No, but the point is that not. If I can ask the 7 chakiros, there's a greater chance that I'm going to be able to get him off the hook. So if I could ask the 7 chakiros to only one of them, if I don't ask 7 chakiros and the guy who did the skila or whoever I don't ask the 7 chakiros to, the edim come, the guy's chayiv. There's basically going to be no way to get the edim to mess up. The 7 chakiros encourages or quote unquote discourages us from accepting the edim's testimony. It tries to get us to get the edim to slip up so that we'll throw out the case. So if I can only try to get one set of edim to slip up, which one am I going to try to get to slip up? The one who did the less serious avera. Because if I can only save one of you, I'm going to save the one who did the less serious avera. Why is this important? Why can't we just extend this to everything? Because again, we only have this Gzerat Shava teaching me about the 7 chakiros by 2 cases right now. By skila, we don't have anything by sreifa, we have it by hereg, and we don't have it by chenek. So once I know it, I'm just saying it outside. Once I know it by skila and or by hereg, for sure by chenek, I'm going to ask the 7 questions. Because if even somebody that sinned so badly that he bowed down to avodah-zarah, I'm going to try to get him off the hook. For sure I'm going to try to get a guy off the hook who did chenek. But let's say I only know hereg. Let's say I only know hereg. So maybe by hereg, where a guy is chayiv hereg, where he did something bad, but not the worst, maybe only by hereg we're going to ask 7 chakiras to get him off the hook. But maybe by sreifa, which is more serious, you should have been more careful when you did the sreifa. As we see in the Gemara before, we're going to see again, we're going to ask you questions and say, like, do you understand what you're about to do? Yes. Do you understand how serious it is? Yes. Do you understand you're about to get sreifa? Yes. So maybe by hereg, we're going to try to get the guy off the hook. But by the more serious din of sreifa, we're not going to get him off the hook. Now, again, as long as we have skila, we're good to go because we can learn everything else. The problem is, as we're going to see in the Gemara, there's an opinion that holds that the order is not skila, sreifa, hereg, chenek. There's an opinion that holds that the order is sreifa, skila, hereg, chenek. As long as you say that the order is skila, sreifa, hereg, chenek, we're good to go. We can learn from everything because, again, we have at least one case of skila here, which we're making the Gzerat Shava for, the case of Yachid avodah-zarah. We're good to go. We're going to ask the Sheva Chakiros all the time because if we're even asking it by skila, the most chamor, we're going to always ask it. But if you say that sreifa is the most chamor, so now I only know by skila and by hereg. So chenek I can learn from skila and by hereg. But if I have sreifa as being the most chamor, now I'm stuck. Because I have no way to know that we ask the 7 chakiros by sreifa. Maybe that, which is the worst according to that opinion, maybe by all other things we'll ask the 7 chakiros to try to get the guy off the hook. But maybe if you're going to do that bad of a thing, if you're going to do sreifa, which according to that opinion is the worst possible act that you can do, something that you chayav sreifa for, maybe in that case, l'maiseh, we will not ask the Sheva Chakiros, and we're not going to bother trying. We're going to try a little bit, but we're not going to try to really confuse the edim, and l'maiseh, you're going to end up dying. That's the Gemara. Okay, have a good shot. Okay, let's read it inside. Zog the Gemara. Zog the Gemara. Va'asu nechenakin bekavachomer miniskalun u'mineharagin. So we can learn chanika from skila or from hereg. Va'asu nisrafin, and if you go in the order again of skila, sreifa, hereg, chenek, va'asu nisrafin bekavachomer miniskalim, then we can learn sreifa at least from skila. Because if we're going to do it even by skila, which is the highest, for sure we're going to do it by sreifa, which is the lowest. Hani chel rabbanan damar skila chamura, el Rabbi Shimon de amar sreifa chamura, ma'yikal ameimar. If Sreifa is the worst, then how do you know that by Sreifa? Elam Rav Yehuda, we need to throw out everything that we said so far. Not throw it out, but we need to add something. He says you'll notice that in the first two cases of Irani Dachas and Yachid avodah-zarah, it doesn't just say V'darashta hetev. It says V'darashta v'chakarta v'shalta hetev v'hinei emes nachon hadavar. How do you tell that the thing was emes? By asking the edim, by grilling the edim. How do you tell that the thing was nachon? By grilling the edim. Says the Gemara, since it says Hinei emes nachon, by the first two cases of Irani Dachas and Yachid avodah-zarah, we add another 4. V'hinei emes nachon by Irani Dachas. V'hinei emes nachon by Yachid avodah-zarah. Now you go from 7 to 11. Now we're good to go. Why are we good to go? It says the Gemara, Lamar V'yuda v'hinei emes nachon, v'hinei emes nachon hachatzrei. What do you do now? You have 11. Sheva l'sheva chakiros. Now you have 7 for the 7 chakiros. Dal tlas l'gezer shava. This opinion, interestingly, is not learning like the other opinion. The other opinion said we can learn heitev 2 things. Since it could have said v'darasha v'chakar, it could have said v'darshu v'chakar, etc., we can learn heitev 2 things. This opinion says no, we don't learn heitev 2 things. So now we're down from 7 to 4, because again we need the 3 heitevs to combine and to learn from one to the other. Now we're down to 4, but now we're adding what? Another 4. So what do we do? Pashaluhu chad l'bishimul asuye nisrafin. Says the Gemara again. So v'ne'emes nachon hachal l'srei sheva l'sheva chakiros dal tlas l'gzerat shava 3 for the gzerat shava pashaluhu chad l'bishimul asuye nisrafin. And you have 1 extra for nisrafin. So now let's say this outside. What we're happening here. Again, beforehand we have v'darasha v'chakarta v'sha'alta heitev, v'darashta heitev. We said, since it could have said other things, we can learn 2 things from heitev. Number 1, that each one of those 3 heitevs count as one of the 7, so now you have 3 of the 7. Plus, all 3 of those heitevs can learn from one to another, and we can combine all them to make 7 total. This one says, no, crazy. That's not true. You could have used other words. The words that were used in the Torah were the words used in the Torah. Therefore, 3 of the heitevs, the 3 heitevs, need to be used to connect them all to each other. So now what are you left with? Only 4. V'darashta v'chakarta, v'darashta. Now you're left with 4. Comes along this opinion and says, no, now you have another 4. Emes nachon. The word heitev combines all of them now. So now you have 8. Well, 8 chakiros, you don't need 8 chakiros. So now you're going to have 8 chakiros. What do? 7 chakiros, and the extra one, let's just say the last nachon, what do you do with it? To tell us that even by sreifa, you're going to do the chakiros. Even though you couldn't learn sreifa from the kal v'chomers, because it's the most serious according to this opinion, even by sreifa, you're going to do the chakiros. And then, but what are we going to say according to the Rabbanan? According to Rabbanan, who say what? Who say that sreifa we already know from a kal v'chomer because skila is the most chamor. Rabbanan milsa da'asi b'kal v'chomer Torah v'katsav l'kor. You're right. There's an extra one, but sometimes the Torah writes an extra one, an extra nachon, even though we could have learned it from a kal v'chomer, it's still mentioned an 8th one. Fine. So that's where we're holding right now. Either you have 7 from like we said before, or you really have 7 like we said now, and the ability and the advantage of this one is that this one works according to the opinion who holds that sreifa is a most chamor. Comes along Rabbi Avo and says, ridiculous, I don't like this. Megadev bar Rabbi Avo. If in fact you have 8, and you're telling me the extra one is for sreifa, or according to Rabbanan, the extra one is just because, well, why are you telling me that there's only 7 chakiros? According to this, tell me that there's actually 8 chakiros, and don't have an extra one for nisrafin. Even if you say you have an extra one, you don't have an extra one. You have 8 chakiros. Ema lasuye shmona chakiros. Says Gemara, shmona chakiros meika. They're really 8. Alamalo, why not? Va'ika lasuye bekama b'shah. You can ask not only, again, what did we have here? We had ezo shana, ezo chodesh, kama chodesh, ezo yom, ezo shah. Which hour of the day? You could ask which part of the hour of the day. It means it was the 4th hour, the 5th hour. Okay, you both agree it was the 5th hour. Was it the beginning of the 5th hour? Was it the first 20 minutes in the 5th hour? Was it the second half of the first of the 5th hour? Which one is that? That's the 8th chakira. Says the Gemara, B'tani nami hachi, hayubokin oso b'shmone chakiros. And we see also that you have 8 chakiros. Says the Gemara, Hanicha, this is hard Gemara, but Hanicha labai aliba de Rabbi Meir damar ein adam toev lo klum. According to Abaye, who says that people are very makbid on what time it is. So I understand how you could ask an 8th chakira, which part of the hour was it? And even if you say that people don't know exactly what time it is to the minute, but they have an idea of what time it is, at least in which part of which hour it is, then you could ask that as a chakira, because we expect them to know. We can only ask them that question if we expect people to know. People are not so accurate to the half an hour, so asking somebody which part of the half an hour in an hour was it, it's not going to help. People are not makbid to the half hour. They just know about what hour it is. Ulurava damar to inshe tuva. People make big mistakes, and we don't even expect people to know which hour it is of the day. Mayikal memar elalasuye bekama biyovel. Rather, according to these people, how are you going to say that you need an eighth chakira to tell me which part of the yovel it is? Hainu be'ez hashuvah. What do you mean, which part of the yovel? We just said that we're asking them which one of the 7 cycles of the 7 years is it? Is it the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh of the 7-year cycle? El lasuye be'ez yovel. Which yovel? When we come to him, we're going to ask, the 8th question would be, well, which yovel was it? This 50 years or last 50 years? Did he lend money in this 50 years, or was it from 1940? Says V'idaf, the Rabbanan say, ridiculous. When somebody comes to you, you're not going to ask one of the 8 questions. Okay, I am coming to testify that this guy killed X. Oh, really? Okay, was it in the past 50 years, or was it 60 years ago? Ridiculous question. What kind of question is that? What do you mean, be'eza yovel? That's what they would say. So again, it ends up that the Gemara has a machlokas. The Gemara has a machlokas. How many chakiros are there? According to this opinion that we just saw at the end, there's 8 chakiros, and the 8th chakira would be either what exactly within the 8th hour. We're asking them which hour, according to everybody. The question is, how off do they have to be? If they're off by an hour, maybe it's fine, but we're definitely asking them which hour of the day was it. Was it the 8th hour, the 9th hour? Within the hour, according to the 8th chakira, we would ask them within which hour. Which means within the 8th hour, was it the first half of the hour? Was it from 1:30 to 2, or was it from 1 to 1:30? That would be one question. And it would, even within that question of the man d'amar to say, well, people are not so makbid about time, then you'd ask within which yovel. That's one opinion, that you have 8 chakiros. The other opinion says ridiculous. We're not asking about yovels. What are you going to ask me about, last yovel versus this yovel? We don't hold of within which hour. We don't expect them to know within the hour which minute was it. Therefore, there's only 7 chakiros. 7 chakiros, you have the extra word nachon or ms or whatever it is. You have the extra one to teach me that even by sreifa, if you hold like the man d'amar that says that sreifa is the most machmir, even by sreifa, you would go ahead. So again, depending how you hold, l'maisa you'll end up. But it'll end up that according to whoever you hold like, you'll end up that, actually not, if you hold like 8, if you hold that there are 8 chakiros, then you'll end up that sreifa is out of the picture, right? Because again, if you hold like this, and we're pushing that it's really 8 chakiros, and you don't have an extra word for sreifa, and sreifa is out of the picture. But according to most, you'd have 7 chakiros, and whether you learn the way we learned that heitev can function twice, or you learn that heitev can function twice, and you need to have ms nachon, it ends up coming out that through kal v'chomers, and maybe through, again, assuming you hold that sreifa is the highest, then lemaisa you can learn maybe from the extra words that you would have 7, and that's the seemingly accepted opinion as it sees in the Mishnah. But seemingly the most accepted opinion is you have 7 chakiros by all din and nefashos, bein beskila sreifa hereg v'chenek. Zak the Gemara.
They do this to confuse the edim.
Again, we're asking as many questions as possible to try to mess them up so that they will go ahead and they will not have to kill the person. Rabbi Yossi Amar, there's only 3. Tanya Amar Lahem Rabbi Yossi L'chachamim L'divrechem Mishabavi Amar Emeshar Go Amar Lo Be'ez HaShavua Be'ez HaShana Be'ez HaChodesh Bekama B'Chodesh. Rabbi Yossi says your questions don't make sense. My questions of what? Be'ez HaYom Be'ez HaShah Be'ez HaMakom. What day, what hour, what place, that makes sense. But you are going to start asking which part of this cycle in Yovel, and which year in that cycle, and what time, etc. Those don't make sense. Why? Somebody's going to come to Beis and they're going to say, I'd like to testify that yesterday I saw A kill B. We're going to say, okay, which year of the Yovel cycle? What do you mean, which year? I just said yesterday. What year? Not just which number of the 7, but which year of the 7. What do you mean, which year of the 7? I just said yesterday. Which month? What do you mean, which month? I just said yesterday. What day of the month? I just said yesterday. Amrulo lidvarecha, he says, but even according to you, the Chachamim say back to him, it's still not good, because what do you say? You say we have to ask him which day, which time of the day, and which place. Even according to you, it's going to be a problem, because Misha Bav Amar Achshav Hargo. If I say that they killed yesterday, then I make sense according to you, because I just say which day. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? But if the guy says, I just saw somebody kill somebody, and he runs to beit-din, and we're going to ask him, okay, so according to you, we're going to say, okay, when did you see him kill him? Which day? What do you mean, which day? I just told you. I just saw him. What hour? I just saw him. Where? Okay, that's a good question. So the Chachamim will tell you, the one who holds that we always give 7, no matter what, and we ask about the Yovel, even if the guy's saying, I saw it yesterday, I saw it last week, because again, we ask as many questions as possible to try to trip them up. For Rabbi Yossi, who says, Emesh Hargo, Shchiach B'Rovedios, Achshav Hargo, Lo Shchiach B'Rovedios. And Rabbi Yossi says we only ask 3 questions, and we said if you're only asking 3 questions, so then Lamaisa, if a guy comes running today, that's not going to be Shaykh. He says, no, most people don't come running to Beis Din as soon as they see something. And therefore, even according to me, it always makes sense to ask the three questions. Because even if somebody came for last week or for 2 weeks ago, and they come to Beis Din and say, when did it happen? And then they'll say, okay, did it happen what day of the month? Did it happen, according to them, the three questions are, what day did it happen, what hour, and what makom, which are good questions, even if it happened yesterday or last week. That's the machlokes. Zok the Gemara, Rabbi Yossi, we had. Zok the Gemara. Makirna otemoso. So what do we ask? We ask the edim, or we ask each individual, do you recognize the guy that you're testifying about? Well, first of all, what does that mean? Tana Rabbanan makirim atemoso, nachri harag Yisrael harag. The first question we have to ask, the most important question is, did he kill a Jew or a non-Jew? If he killed a non-Jew, so obviously it's something that he shouldn't have done, but we're not going to give him mitas beis din for it. So that's the first question we ask. Then we ask him, hatri sembo, did you give him hasra? Not just did you warn him, kibel alav hasra. You can't just warn him. He has to actually accept the warning and say, I understand that if I do this sin, I will die. And not just that, hitir atzmo lemisa. He understands that I'm doing it, not only that I know I'm warned, but I'm doing it on condition that I know that if I do it, I'm going to die. You really have to go ahead and want to die. If you're going to die, I'll meet us beis din. And not only that, we ask him, Hamis betoke de dibor. Make sure that after the warning, which he accepted, we ended up killing him, or he ended up killing betoke de dibor. Says the Gemara, ha'oved avodah-zarah. What do you ask by oved avodah-zarah? What do you have to ask? The edim needs to know ad mi avad. What did he serve? Le'paor avad, le'mirkulus avad. Did he serve paor? Did he serve markulus? Uvameh avad. How did he serve him? Bezivuach. Did he shech something to him? Bekitor. Did he offer burned things to him? Benisach. Did he pour things to him? Beshtachavai. Did he bow down to him? That's all the questions. Those are the questions that we all have to ask. And again, those are not chakiros per se. Those are all bedikos. Zok the Gemara. But again, if he doesn't know, that's fine. If he knows and then they contradict each other, that's going to be a problem. Amar Ula, minayin lahasra min haTorah. Where do you know that you need warning in general? We're going to bring 4 quick opinions on where do you know that somebody needs to be warned in order to give them mitas beis din. Shenamar v'ish asher yikach es achosa basaviv basimo v'ra'a es ervasav. If somebody takes their sister and sees their nakedness. What do you mean sees their nakedness? Should have said, and they uncover and they actually have relations. What's vira'ah? Atu biri'iyah tal yamil says. It really have to do with seeing. You don't get punished just for seeing. Ela'ad sheriruhu tamo shel davar. He's only punished once he sees the reason, or once he sees that it's usher. How do you see that it's usher? By being warned. Obviously, it's not talking about warning him for kares. You get kares regardless. God knows whether you're shogeg or mazid. It's talking about if you're going to warn a guy, right? We know that if a person gets kares for not being warned, then the equivalent is when somebody gets warned, then they get malchus. Whatever you would get kares for in private for not being warned, like eating on Yom Kippur, if you're warned, you would get malchus for that. Zok the Gemara, well, there are some exceptions. Taneu Indian lamalchus. So that's the first opinion. That from that pasuk of vira'ah es ervasa, we see that a person has to see what they're doing. They have to be warned. Somebody has premeditated murder. And Rashi says in the Lishna Achrina, what could it have said? It said v'im hezid. If he would have had premeditated murder, what does it mean v'chi yazid? That sounds like the current. That's the present. Shehit rubo v'adayin hu mezid. He's currently mezid. That means he was premeditating, and he's currently continuing to premeditate even after being warned. To be Rabbi Shmuel Tana hamotzim osom mekoshesh eitzim, the one who was cutting eitzim or gathering eitzim on Yom HaShabbos. Shehit rubo v'adayin hu mekoshesh. He's still mekoshesh. He could have said the guy who was kishesh eitzim. What does it mean he's mekoshesh eitzim? That means he was being mekoshesh eitzim. We warned him, and he continued to be mekoshesh eitzim after the warning. Finally, Debei Rabbi Tana al devar asher ina al iske dibor. You see, by adultery, you get punished for al devar asher ina. It's not because asher ina. It should have said because you committed adultery. Al devar asher ina, you only get punished al iske dibor. If there was dibor first warning you, and then you were ina,